Okay, so what I have in front of me right now is a video called BJJ Black Belt Wins Wrestling Tournament, and it's by a guy named Robbie Malouf. The premise of this video is this guy who has never actually wrestled. He's only done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He ends up entering a wrestling tournament, and he wins. And I guess it was against some high-level competition. Now, there are a couple of caveats to this. There's a couple of asterisks that we're going to talk about a little bit after. But right now, I think we'll just go ahead and we'll take a look at the technique. So right away, we have an advertisement for his gym. All right, so he ties up, tries to go underhooks, but the wrestler gets the underhooks. He tries to step out for a trip, and he does not quite get it. So right now, he's posting his hands on the hips to stop the underhooks, and ooh, nice, okay. He ends up sprawling out, and he ends up in a front headlock position. So he shoots in for the single leg. And we're going to see if he gets it. And he does. That was a pretty nice finish. So this is interesting. All right, so he goes back to that front headlock position. And we're going to go ahead. We're going to go back to it real quick. You can see, right, he ends up getting the takedown. He scores the 2, but then he immediately starts trying to work from a position that a wrestler would typically not be working from. And that's because you can tell he doesn't really know what to do after the takedown when somebody is not immediately trying to pull a guard. The closest thing to this in jiu-jitsu is turtle position. And it's not exactly like turtle position. And since this guy here can't put in chokes or anything like that, he's a little bit stumped. So he goes back to what is a familiar position to him, which is that front headlock position. And it's not a wrestling front headlock. There's a wrestling front headlock, and then there's a jiu-jitsu or submission grappling front headlock. And you can use the two interchangeably, don't get me wrong. But the wrestling front headlock is used for a few different reasons in wrestling, and I'll try to make sure I include an example of that. But basically, the wrestling front headlock entails using the other guy's arm, pulling it across, right? There's a few different reasons for that. You can see here that this guy still has complete control of his arm. I think that right there proves that this guy doesn't really have wrestling experience in that way. He's not a pure wrestler. There's some people who are saying, oh no, he's definitely a wrestler. I don't think he is, I'll be honest with you, because if he was a wrestler, if he had wrestling experience, he would have known what to do once he ended up getting the 2. But let's keep going. I think it's interesting. He stops the outside trip. I think it's interesting that it's all highlights that make him look good, though. That's a cute little move on his part. Again, we have that front headlock. It's a jiu-jitsu front headlock. He doesn't really seem to know what he's doing. And, yeah, I mean, that wasn't bad. So we're right on to the next match right away. I'll say a couple of things. That wasn't bad. One thing I will say is that he definitely played it safe. And if you are not a wrestler, you're going to want to play it safe in a wrestling tournament, obviously. I don't even necessarily blame him for that. But he did pretty damn good. A little bit suspect that he only included things that made him look good. I'd like to see the whole match. I'd like to see all of his whole matches, but it is what it is. I don't think he's a wrestler, but we're going to go ahead. We're going to keep taking a look. All right, so he gets in on that single, and he starts attacking a Kimura from there, and that is illegal in wrestling, actually. The Kimura grip is not illegal, but the way he used it was. So he ends up getting, well, I don't think that's not a takedown yet. The referee didn't award 2, and he isn't around back. So that was a pretty interesting scramble. That was really cool. So he tries to clear, shoot in, but he ends up getting the arms on the inside for the underhooks, which is nice. And that was a nice double. He ran that. Nice. Good. That was really good. He fought for that. See, he's really good at making sure he digs for the underhooks when he ends up getting shot in on. That's really good on his part. Ooh, that was nice. He tried to go snap down, and then he shot in. So there's that single leg, but and you see there's that Kimura grip that he's using in what is actually an illegal way again, right? These are some really and you see there it is again. Like I'm not like angry about it. It's just like, okay, like that those were all illegal. Really good scrambles, but there's illegal moves inside of the scramble that would have been called if the referee was actually doing his job. Yeah, I mean, really good match. That was really cool. Scrambles are tough. It's tough to make sure you're making the right move on the fly like that, you know. And that's actually something that I had a hard time with for years. And I'm finally, or it's not that I'm finally getting good at it. It's that I finally got good at it after a while. And you know, I'm continuing to get better at it. Obviously, you're never good at something. You're only getting good, in my opinion. But I didn't exactly dig the Kimuras, but he was just reverting back to what he knew. And it's not his fault, by the way. It's not his fault. It's the referee's fault for not calling that. The reason why I'm not too thrilled about that is because that's not something you're typically going to see in a wrestling match. So the wrestler is not going to know to look out for that in the first place, right? This is a low-key benefit to him knowing jiu-jitsu and not thinking from a wrestler's standpoint. Is a wrestler's not going to think to go Kimura, or I think they call it a double wrist lock or like a key lock or something like that. They're not going to think to do that because in their head they're thinking, oh, this is illegal, I'm going to get called for it, I don't want to end up getting called for this. Even if I don't get in trouble for it, it's going to break the action and we're going to have to start over. He didn't know, so he just went right for it. And on the flip side to that, the guy who it's being done to, he's going to be like, what the hell is even going on here? He's not going to know that he has to defend that. So it's basically just a free move, a free Kimura. Nothing's going to be done about it. So that's kind of my gripe with the Kimura. But it's not his fault. It's not anyone's fault other than the ref. The ref knows the rules, and for some reason he wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. He wasn't enforcing the rules. So with that said, let's go ahead and let's see the next match. So other guy shoots in. We have, and it looks like he's probably going to go back to that Kimura. And let's see here. Oh, nice. Oh, man. Oh, no, he didn't get it. He didn't quite get it. That was good. That was hard fought on his part. Talking about Robbie. And, is he going to get it? That outside single, that sweeps. I believe they call that a sweep single. I could be wrong. The names escape me a little bit. It looks like he's going for that Kimura again. I don't know if he's going to get it, though. Yeah, no, he couldn't get it. And, is he gonna? No. Yeah, I mean, right now he's kind of playing it safe again. He's not shooting in for takedowns. He's just kind of trying to make sure he doesn't get taken down, you know, and he's fighting hard and he's getting out of it every time he ends up getting caught. Ooh, that was nice. That was really nice. He ends up shucking and he goes in for that double leg, and he ends up using the trip on the outside. So he stands up. Yeah, that's a caution. I'm wondering how he's going to do in the referee's position. And, yeah, he's out again. So this right here, okay, so this right here, I'm also going to say, it's actually another benefit to jiu-jitsu. They let him wrestle without wrestling shoes on. And the wrestling shoes is one of the reasons why it was a lot easier for him to slip out when he ended up in that position where he was like 90% of the way out. And again, like, it's not his fault, but if the referees and the officials were doing their jobs, they would have ended up making him wear shoes. They would have said, you don't have shoes, you can't compete. Everybody's going to compete on the same plane. And those wrestling shoes, they provide more grip for you, you know, on the mat. But then in addition to that, you're not going to be able to take your shoes off and then grab somebody else by their ankles or by their feet and have the shoes to keep them from slipping out. I want to reiterate, it's not his fault at all, right? But this is actually something you see from jiu-jitsu, now that I'm thinking of it. You see jiu-jitsu guys kind of trying their best to use every little advantage they can, which they should, don't get me wrong. But wrestling is not like that. Wrestling is very much I'm going to fight you like a man and I'm going to beat you without having to take shortcuts, kind of. That's the culture. Royce Gracie in UFC 1. Nobody else was allowed to use anything, but he was allowed to use his gi. I'm not going to be like mad upset about that or anything, but it is noteworthy. He ended up winning. He definitely played it safe in that third match. I definitely think he proved that he is a very good grappler, right? I mean, he's a jiu-jitsu black belt. He's gonna be a very good grappler, but he can stand up to some other guys that are really good. One thing I will say is You notice how there's not many people around here. That's because this tournament is not that serious. This is a tournament that is either in the off season, either that, or I mean, I would assume this guy is probably in his 20s, maybe his early to mid 30s, something like that. He looks on the young side, you know. But then again, I don't know. I'm a bad judge of age. Not only is this an off-season tournament most likely, but in addition to that, this is probably a tournament for people who are like old. Dudes that they're not in college, they weren't good enough to even think about going to the Olympic trials, and they're just having a hard time hanging it up. I took part in one of these things, and I ended up grappling with a dude who I think was like 22. And then I grappled with a dude who I think was in his like late 30s, early 40s, right? Like those are the kinds of guys. Dudes like me, dudes who don't really care that much about grappling as a sport. We just do it because we like it, and it also adds to our ability to fight overall. That's a type of competition you're gonna see from tournaments like this. These are the kinds of guys you're gonna get. All right, you're not getting top competition. To my understanding, these guys were D1 wrestlers and state champs and things like that. So I'm not going to pretend like they were absolute schlubs, but they were not in peak shape. It's not like they were getting ready for the NCAA tournament or anything like that. They were very talented grapplers, but there's a difference between being a very talented grappler and being someone who is in legit shape, who is in fight, or who is in tournament shape. Showing up and beating the hell out of a bunch of dudes who are not taking it that serious, I wouldn't brag about that. Now, the other side of that is I said that this guy did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and nothing else. That's actually not true. He also was an MMA fighter, and this is his own words. I'll try to see if I can find the comment that I saw, and I'll include that in this video. In his own words, he was also an MMA fighter, which means he did wrestle. He didn't wrestle, but there was wrestling that was involved in his grappling, and that's where his takedowns come in. Most jiu-jitsu schools are not teaching takedowns in the way that these guys, both of them, both him and his opponents, were doing. It's just not really something you're going to see. They have rudimentary takedowns at best. He definitely ended up grappling with a bunch of dudes who were wrestlers, and he definitely learned from those guys, and he took it and he applied it into his MMA training. And then in addition to that, his instructors, his combat grappling, his MMA grappling instructors were also wrestlers. If not, they learned from wrestlers. That's just the way that it is. So, again, it's kind of that same thing where it's like, you see, it's just another case of a jiu-jitsu guy not really being truthful and trying to act like he did more than he actually did, right? Now, can I take away this stunning accomplishment from this guy? No. Especially because, like, he did really good. He's really talented. But I don't like this guy's attitude, if I'm going to be honest with you. The things that I saw him saying, that's part of the reason why I wanted to take a look at this, is because the more I looked into it, the more it was just like, oh, this is fucking weird, you know? This guy's beating up on weekend warriors, and he's acting like he's king shit. Congratulations, all right? Great job, dude. You did great. But no point really proven. More like a black belt woman beats up like a purple belt guy is kind of the comparison that I feel you could make. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and sub, and also comment if you feel like commenting. If you have any questions for me, hit me up on Instagram at Scott Sullivan MMA. I like making question and answer videos. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, good luck out there.